Thank you to all that took the time to view what I had to say about the Chicago trip. There's a few comments that I'd like to respond to and react to and reflect upon as well. So let's just go. I worked from the bottom to the top. So if you read the sides in the comments, I'm starting at the bottom and kind of addressing some questions from the bottom up. So one of the things that was mentioned towards the bottom was the MTTS system should be done as a system of a team. And thank you for that information. As you can see, I'm completely ignorant to the ideas of multi-tiered systems of supports, tier one, tier two, tier three, what is all involved. And it's something that I need to do and learn about. So any information that I can get from that, and I thank you for the comment that it shouldn't be done as a group, that if I get into a leadership role and when I get into a leadership role, when we look at the multi-tier systems of supports, to do that as a team so we can get multiple eyes, multiple perspectives, and multiple opinions into that committee, into that group for that student. So thank you very much. There was a comment about communities and schools, which operates from my understanding of both of these organizations from the 3,000-foot view, which I don't necessarily know a lot about both, but from what we listened to and what I heard from Youth Guidance, there's an organization called Communities and Schools, which operates much in the same way, which puts a counselor to meet the social and economic or the social needs of students. Currently, Decatur Township has and is using title money to put them in the elementary schools. However, the way that title money is funded, communities and schools are not in the high schools or the secondary schools yet. We are currently in a competitive grant with hundreds of other schools across Indiana to try to, I believe, acquire $100 million, maybe, or maybe $100,000, something like that. I don't know. It's a big grant that's highly competitive, and a lot of schools are going after it. One of the pieces of that is to fund the counselors in the secondary schools. That grant would allow us to get a counselor for our high school or a counselor for our secondary schools, middle school as well. Right now, the communities and schools are in our elementary schools, and they are trying to address that whole child MTTS supports in our elementary schools. However, it has not made it to the high school just yet. Another comment that was made was about Classroom Bridges. Classroom Bridges is more of like a dating service. I haven't fully implemented in my classroom because I'm not sure exactly how you have to do it because it takes some work. Basically, I call it a dating service because it's a website that connects you with other like-minded individuals. So if somebody else wants to in Iran, which was the first person that I heard back from, wants to create a unit, we can create a unit. So it was a fifth grade teacher that wanted to teach globally, and she reached out to my school because our school and our social, global, and environmental responsibility was something that interests her. So we have to hash out how and what the unit looks like. There is no magic bullet. There is no downloadable content that is easy to do. This is something that you have to work with like-minded people to establish. So that takes a little bit of work on your side and on your part. But if you're willing and flexible and it's something that you care about is connecting with people across the globe, I highly recommend hitting up that Classroom Bridges website. Because we've been busy with the MBAE program this summer, I have not been able to continue to reach out to those teachers to set something up for my classroom. I'm hoping to do that throughout the second half of July before school starts so we can get something going for second semester because I believe it's going to take about that much work to try to figure out and iron out what type of unit to work across continents. I reached out to a couple people in Massachusetts and a couple people in like Australia. I heard back from 3 or 4 teachers, but the one teacher that I did hear back and have communicated 3 or 4 times with is from Iran. So we're looking at 5th and 6th grade class, trying to work with our junior class at the high school, do some cross-cultural work with that. Don't know what it's going to look like, but that's part of the mystique, allures. Part of what keeps me wanting to do this is because we can craft a project the way that we see fit. One of the things that people talked about gyms being able to do is be able to talk to people and have that global connection. Well, we have a way to do the exact same thing, which is why I tried to promote it. Is not many people know about it, but that was the goal of the person who made Classroom Bridges. So it's out there. We just have to take advantage of it. Um, the last thing that I want to address is something about the shift in mindset of misbehavior. So, one of the mentions of the MTTS when I was doing a little bit of research is in order for it to work, in order for us to have success, we have to have some strong supports at that level one. And some of those level one supports have to take in consideration why the student is making the disruption, that misbehavior sometimes is not always an act of defiance, which is what a lot of teachers, or an act of being rude, that there is some underlying root cause that's causing the student to have their action, and that may come and stem from the need of higher levels of support. So how do I get teachers to make that shift? I'm at a loss. I don't have anything great to say about that. It's something that will have to come on a case by case, teacher by teacher basis in my mind, because some teachers may be quicker to understand it, some teachers might and might not. And I may be making the assumption, but I believe each individual act of defiance and or discipline should be handled independent of itself and should have its own kind of investigation as to the root cause analysis of why that behavior took place. Was it defiance? Because it could have been. Or was there something else, like I didn't get sleep last night because mommy and daddy were fighting, or I had to sell drugs to make ends meet for my family. There could be something else that was causing that problem. It's not always about the kid being disrespectful to the teacher. Granted, that does happen quite often. So I believe, to me, I believe it's all individual, case by case, person by person. But as I said, I need to learn a lot more about the multi-tiered systems and supports, um, and that's something that I need to look into to be an effective administrator, to make sure that we are supporting the whole child and making sure the whole child is successful. Thank you for taking a look at my reactions to the comments on my reflection from the Chicago trip.